What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cleveland Browns offseason rebuild, including a realistic mock draft for this Cleveland Browns team. I know it's going to be a popular rebuild here in the coming weeks here, but we're going to try and get every team done here before the new league year starts. It's going to be quite the ride. Might have to push it back into free agency a little bit. Just real quick, I am working on the roster, about to finish up for my reboot of the roster for Xbox One, and then gonna do it for PlayStation 4 as well. I've had a ton of people asking about that, so that is why I haven't had quite as many videos in the last week or so, but you can definitely expect a bunch of content coming in the next month leading up to this draft that I'm so pumped for. So let's get into the Browns here. And again, guys, if you want to see your team sooner rather than later, head over to my Patreon, become a patron, and let me know what team you want to see. And that'll also guarantee that you do get to see your team in case I don't get to everyone. So the Browns here, not going to spend a lot of time talking about the roster. Obviously, pretty big mess. Those that have followed me know I am not a Deshaun Kaiser guy, so we're going to be looking at quarterback probably in the draft. We got the number 1 overall pick. We're going to lose Crowell at receiver. We pretty much got nothing other than Josh Gordon. This is EA's roster, by the way, so that I can start in the current timeline. Going to have to deal with those non-immersive issues in the EA roster, but the O-line's pretty good. We need a right tackle. Defensively, could really use help anywhere, honestly. Jamie Collins had a down year, but Joe Schobert breakout. Could use another linebacker. That's probably okay, but on the D-line and in the secondary, we need some help. And the safeties are probably okay, but if the opportunity comes up, we might look at safety. So we're going to go ahead and get right to the re-signing stage here. So we've got Crowell, Josh Gordon are up, and then I'm pretty sure that's pretty much it. And as far as players we're concerned about here, not even really worried about too much of this depth. Can always get depth back later because of the depth at running back in this draft class that I'm going to talk about once we get to the draft stage. I'm going to let Isaiah Crowell go, but definitely want to get Josh Gordon back here. Asking for a 4-year deal for about $6 million. In real life, I think he's going to want like a 3-year, $30 million deal, maybe even $40 million. Whether or not he gets that is up in the air, and I actually haven't heard his name brought up in free agency. I can't even tell you if he really is a free agent. This could just be Madden, some Madden BS here. We're going to give him what he wants. I think he's going to be back in Cleveland next year. Could even get rid of that slow development too, honestly. I don't think he deserves that anymore. He's just such a good athlete, and he's only an 80 overall. At this rate, I think he's going to escalate and be a bigger impact player next season, especially once he gets a quarterback. So that's really it for re-signing. Let's go ahead and take a look at free agency here. We got a ton of money. That said, we want to try and be realistic here. It's not easy to lure guys to Cleveland right now, but you never know. So let's just go through by position. Kirk Cousins getting floated around here because we're using EA's roster. Unfortunately, he probably gets re-signed here by the Redskins. Alex Smith not on that team. But even if this was an option, even if Kirk Cousins was here, I don't like that for Cleveland. I get it. He provides some safety for a team that's really struggled, but man, you are seriously limiting what you're going to be able to accomplish in the next 4 or 5 years if you're giving him a massive contract, which he's going to get. And they really have house money because they pick 1st and 4th. They were lucky enough that Deshaun Watson got hurt. They can take a quarterback with those first 2 picks, and it's almost free based on how they were able to get up that high in the draft. So definitely not considering a quarterback really at all. Wide receiver, I would definitely consider a guy like Marquise Lee. Whoever our new quarterback is going to be, definitely going to need some more weapons there. Quincy Enunwa hits the market here. Torrey Smith, a veteran guy. Jordan Matthews could be interesting. Dante Moncrief definitely would make sense. Do have a lot of picks as well to address that. I don't think Marquise Lee would be interested. I think he might rather go play somewhere more secure, especially after being in Jacksonville this whole time. But I'm going to make offers at both Jordan Matthews and Dante Moncrief here. I think those are 2 pretty realistic signings. Just a couple guys, good athletes that haven't really panned out yet, that might just need a change of scenery. Granted, Jordan Matthews just got one. So though we are the top bids there, I also really like Ryan Grant. Maybe we'll talk to him depending what happens with those top 2 guys. We're good at tight end. We got Njoku. This offensive line, you know, we're pretty set, paid out last free agency here, so not really going to consider this. Not really any right tackles that would come in and start. And then along the defensive side, you know, we could probably use a little help on the D-line, but I do kind of like the athleticism and youth we have there. Probably not spending big there in the first week. No one too exciting becomes available at middle linebacker here. Maybe Paul Posluszny. You know, Joe Schobert rated a 77 overall here, makes the Pro Bowl. I don't know if I'm buying that yet. I don't think he's locked in as a starter for next season, to be honest. Could definitely use some corner help, that's for sure. Maybe even go after a guy like Tremaine Johnson. We got plenty of cap space. He's asking for just a 2-year deal. That's actually pretty good, but he's going to get a lot more than that in real life. And we do have Jason McCourty, extremely overrated here. Not going to say extremely, but, you know, he's rated a little too high here. And Jamar Taylor and Bodie Calhoun rated way too high here. Almost tempted to make those guys worse to better reflect what they are in real life. As far as the Browns should be concerned here, they definitely need one more outside corner. I mean, Jamar Taylor, I think, is pretty good, and Jason McCourty did have a good year, but I don't think they're counting on him for another season, and frankly, I actually think he might be a free agent in real life. I don't remember. Don't know if they're quite ready to cash out for Tremaine Johnson. So let's talk to, how about Ross Cockrell, who had a good bounce-back year for the Giants there. Give him kind of what he's asking for here, about 3 years, 17 mil. Bring him in until he's 30. And then at safety, I'm happy enough with the guys we have to not consider those guys there. So let's go ahead and advance to the second week here. So we lose out on Cockrell, but we do get both those receivers. So we're pretty set free agent-wise at that receiver position. We're going to have to take another look at corner and then maybe consider some deeper, cheaper options here as well. So how about Prince Amukamara at corner? He had an actually okay year for the Bears. I'm going to go ahead and make an offer to Jaquiz Rodgers. You know, not to spoil anything here, but running back, probably going to get a starting running back in the draft, but definitely need some depth there. You know, we got Duke Johnson as our third down reliever, but in case something happened to our starter, we need someone who has experience starting, but we also don't want to pay too much for that position. So that's just a good depth signing there, I think. And then speaking of depth signings, you know, there's such a young defense, especially up front. How about a guy like Brian Robeson, who's no longer with the Vikings, but can come in and provide a veteran presence, and if he still wants to play, then so be it. We'll see if he wants to come to Cleveland and maybe not win a championship, but at least coach up some of these young guys. And then you could use some interior help as well, but I just don't see a guy like Kyle Williams, A, hitting the market, and B, signing with Cleveland, so I'm not going to go that route. Coney Ely, still no offers here in the second week. We're going to talk to him if he's still not getting talked to in week 3. And then I'm also going to make an offer for Paul Posluszny. I'm only going to make a 1-year deal because he is 33 years old, but I would much rather play Paul Posluszny at middle linebacker than Joe Schobert as sort of that rotational third in base defenses. So let's go ahead and see what they think of those offers. So we are bringing in some veteran talent here. Hopefully some culture building guys there. Still have some negotiations to do, but that's just about it. Paul Posluszny getting talked to by the Colts, so we'll go ahead and let him go. You know, we do have Schobert, so we're pretty, I'm not going to say we're pretty good there, but we at least have a guy to play. So that's going to do it for free agency. Let's get to this draft, baby. It's going to be one of the more fun drafts we get to do. People often ask me how to get more involved and support TFG directly. Well, now you can. Pledging just $1 on Patreon means more than you know towards bigger and better creations. Becoming a Patreon now hooks you up with access to my personal Discord network where you can slip right into my DMs. Get dibs on video priority to see your teams first, and tangible goods as well, like access to my personal NFL draft board grading every prospect you'll want to know about, and my tier-based fantasy rankings to help you beat your friends and take their money. And for the football junkies, you'll get my Vegas picks, where in 2017 we sniped the Eagles at 66-1 to win it all and went 2-1 picking underdogs. So that's patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy. Do it. Back to the video. So the big question here, right? I've been kind of shying away from what I want to do here. Really, if I'm the Browns here, I'm considering two things, right? You take Saquon Barkley, who's probably the best prospect most of us have ever seen coming into a draft, or you take your quarterback, number one, you take your guy. If you think one of these guys is standing out from the other guys, or you're afraid that you're not going to be able to get one or two guys at 4, you just take your guy, and then you get a hell of a player at 4 as well. And that's kind of the position I'm taking here. I love Saquon Barkley, but I'm okay missing out on him if it means you get a franchise quarterback. And for me, it's Sam Darnold. There's so many interesting opinions about the quarterbacks in this class, but for me, it's always been Darnold coming into the year, and I get kind of the concerns that he was sporadic, made some bad decisions, but I just love that pocket awareness. I think he's going to be incredibly accurate, and that arm talent is just so natural. So we'll take this guy, and we'll pretend that he's Sam Darnold here. And then maybe you would think about trading up with the Giants to take Saquon. You got 2 picks in the second round. They might consider it. We're not going to do it here. I'm going to predict that Saquon will be gone by here, whether it's the Giants or the Colts, who both need running back, by the way, or someone trades up. Someone like the Jets maybe could move up and take Saquon there. So I think Saquon's going to be gone. I also think that Josh Allen goes here via trade. I just have a hard time believing that Allen and Darnold don't go 1 and 2, frankly. Based on the quarterbacks that we've seen go in the top 3 in recent memory, Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, I just have a hard time believing that prospects like Allen and Darnold aren't going to turn into what we saw with Mariota and Jameis or Carson and Goff. And I think these two are better than either of those other combos. So I think it's going to be Saquon and 2 quarterbacks here, which really opens up the board for the Browns here at 4. And some people think they could trade down here. I don't get that. They have so many picks. There's not a lot of reason to do that. So you're really thinking about maybe Nick Chubb or Fitzpatrick here, the corner out of Alabama. I think Chubb would be a great complement to Garrett. I think it'd be a great pick here, but personally, I like the high upside of Fitzpatrick to be maybe Jalen Ramsey. I mean, seriously, he's that big, physical, fast, not a ton of experience playing outside in college, but I think he'll translate right away. So, I mean, you get a quarterback and you get potentially an elite corner there. So that's how I'm going to do it here for the Browns in the first round. I'm kind of playing it simple. And then here we pick 33 and 35. So you're really looking at potential first-round talents here already in the second round. Cleveland is just so lucky to have these picks, and that's why I say take the quarterback, because they have so many picks. You just got to hit on a few of them, right? So here early in the first pick in the second round, you could think about a right tackle. You could think about a pass rusher if someone fell here. You know, there's definitely some really good edge rushers that might slip right out of the first round there. Duke Ejiofor, Harold Landry, Jeff Holland out of Auburn's a guy I really like, who's projected to go maybe second or third round. So you could definitely think about that here. You could think about receiver. Do we see a guy like Cortland Sutton fall out of the first round, giving a big-bodied receiver to Cleveland here? I don't think Calvin Ridley falls. Maybe James Washington falls. But if it's not one of those 3, I don't think there's a ton of value, and I just have a hard time seeing those receivers slip out. Cortland Sutton being the one that might. And I'm recording this the day before the Combine, so we don't even know where these guys are going to come in athletically. For me, the value is going to be here at running back. I think 2 or 3 go in the first, and I've got 5 running backs that I'm comfortable taking in this range. And again, guys, if you want to see all my ranks, that's a Patreon perk to get access to my draft board that I'm talking about here. I love John Kelly. I don't think you have to take him here, though, even though I would be fine with that. For me, it's either Nick Chubb or Rashad Penny, and maybe Darius Geis, who had a great day at the Combine today, falls here. I ultimately think Geis goes as the second running back here and in the first round. So for me, it's going to be either Nick Chubb or Rashad Penny here. I think one of them will be available. If it's both, I'm taking Chubb. So we're going to call this pick Nick Chubb out of Georgia. High upside, bruising power back with some speed as well. And then we get to pick again right now. So this is fun to be this Cleveland Browns team right now. But I did just mention those top receivers probably all gone by now. If there's a chance to take Cortland Sutton here, I would absolutely do it, or James Washington, but I do think they go in the first. So I think we could get an edge rusher here. And I would think about trading down for another receiver, but we have 2 picks again at the top of the third. So we can still get some really good receiver talent. And I actually think receiver is really deep at the end of the second and all throughout the third round. I think there's a ton of value there. So I love taking the best edge rusher left here. He'll come in and compete with Ogba, who hasn't really panned out to his best ability yet. Obviously, all the true first-round talent guys are going to go in the first. It's just such a premium position. But how about a Jeff Holland out of Auburn, a guy I compare to Carl Lawson, who I loved last year. He could definitely come in and maybe take Ogba's spot. At worst, rotate with him. So we added some talent on defense there. We're going to go ahead and we're definitely looking at receiver now as we pick here at the end of, actually, this is still a second round pick. This is just insane how many picks this team has. So going right to receiver. So here you're looking at probably Anthony Miller, Michael Gallup, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk. I think one of those guys should be here. If I had to guess, the one that is going to be left out of that group would be either Michael Gallup or Anthony Miller. I really, really like Anthony Miller. I mean, the dude just makes plays. Really excited to see how he works out tomorrow, and if he kills it, he could slip into the first round. He's just got that type of talent, but played at a lower level. So we'll call this Anthony Miller here out of Memphis. And again, I don't know if he's going to be there, but there are good receivers here. So we took the smaller-bodied guy who can play all over the field, but probably going to start in the slot for us there, Anthony Miller. And then how about we take a chance on one of these big-bodied guys who are going to fall in this 3 to 4 round range. And maybe you trade down here, maybe you don't. I would probably just take the guy. I mean, you've had so many picks already, why not? So, Auden Tate, Equanimous St. Brown, those are kind of the go-to freak athlete, big-bodied guys who, we'll get to see how they run tomorrow. You guys will probably actually know by the time I publish this video. But a matter of preference here, I think I like St. Brown's upside a little more than Tate. I think he's going to work out better. Tate maybe a little more polished, but I like the upside of St. Brown to keep him in the Midwest. So we'll take a big-bodied guy here and call him Equanimous St. Brown. So a really exciting draft for the Browns here. So now we're definitely in a drop-off in talent. We've skipped ahead a good 30 picks or so. I think our biggest need left right now is either going to be right tackle, but we do have a couple young athletic linemen that could compete for that right tackle that have been pretty decently high picks in the last few years. So I'm going to leave that position for now. I think safety could use some competition, and I haven't quite scouted all my safeties yet, but how about a guy like Deshaun Elliott out of Texas, kind of a 2017 breakout guy, projected to go 2 to 4, so maybe he'll be here. Or maybe you're looking at Jordan Whitehead out of Pitt or Jesse Bates out of Wake Forest, but just bring in a guy to compete with those 2 safeties there. Might not start, might start, you never know. We pick again in the 4th round. So really just going best player available here. And this running back class, as was proven in the combine today, is so ridiculously deep. There's going to be a really good running back here available in the middle of the 4th, and I think this is about where those last few really good running backs go. So maybe Akram Wadley out of Iowa. He's a little smaller, probably not a great fit because we have Duke Johnson, who I actually like as a receiver. Bo Scarborough might be here. John Kelly might be here, which is insane. He's my Kareem Hunt this year. If John Kelly's here, I'm taking him if I'm Cleveland 100% of the time. I thought Sony Michel had a pretty bad combine today. He could fall here. I thought Justin Jackson out of Northwestern looked really good today. He's probably a good pick here, but maybe Ronald Jones falls after he pulled up in his 40 today. Someone's going to fall here, and it's going to be a great pick. I'm just going to call it conservative here for the sake of the rebuild and say this is Justin Jackson out of Northwestern, a really balanced back that ran a 4.5 today, showed that he's a little faster than we might have thought. Starting to get into dart throw territory here. How about a corner for a secondary that needs some help here? And the corners, it's all going to sort itself out here at the combine, but how about just an athletic guy out of a big conference who would be an interesting project? is probably the route I'm going here. How about a Jamarcus King, cornerback out of South Carolina, 6 feet, 182. Maybe a Levi Wallace out of Alabama. The draft board at cornerback is very far from being complete here just because we haven't seen the combine. Yet another pick here. I think we could use a linebacker pretty bad. One of my favorite sleeper at linebacker in this draft is Andre Smith out of North Carolina. Really unknown guy, barely played last season, but plays and is built identically to Denzel Perriman at 6 feet, 240. I think he's going to work out pretty well. And I don't even know if he's at the combine, to be honest, but he's only a true junior. He's got sleeper steal written all over him. And he's projected 7th round to UDFA. I would take him in the 5th round just to get my hands on the guy. So we'll make that this pick, Andre Smith out of North Carolina. 6th round here. How about a flyer on an offensive tackle? I'll call it Rick Leonard, offensive tackle out of Florida State. I wasn't even looking, but we sniped a steal there. Who knows if that's who Rick Leonard is? I haven't gotten through my lineman evals quite yet, but now that the combine happened, I'll probably get to that in the next few days. And then just for fun here, because I think I could actually see this happening, how about Shaquem Griffin, the one-handed linebacker out of UCF here in the 7th round? A lot of people ask me if I like him. If he had a hand, I'd be really high on him. I think he has a little finesse to him. He's crafted his own game. But I actually think he's suited best as a stand-up linebacker. If he had a hand, he's already kind of undersized and fits that tweener role where he's probably better as a 4-3 will. But if you don't have a hand, you're not going to play well in coverage. I'm sorry. But who knows? Maybe he crafts a role as a pass rusher and just come in on 3rd downs. So I'm going to go ahead and create these rookies here in just a sec. No, I'd say that's a really fun draft and a draft that makes this team at least competitive this year. So we're going to run through the depth chart, and obviously these ratings are a little inflated, not just a little inflated, very inflated to match EA's ratings. I had to make these guys, 30, 40% higher overall than I will have them in my actual roster when I create them. Let's go ahead and set the depth chart here. We got Sam Darnold plugging right in as our starter, beating out Kaiser, and then at running back, we're going to start Nick Chubb and then make Justin Jackson the backup. Keep Duke Johnson as our 3rd down weapon there. At receiver, Josh Gordon, our number 1. It's going to be a battle between these 3 guys here for that number 2 position. We'll go with Corey Coleman. He's the guy we've got the money invested in. If I had to bet on a guy to win that job, I would go with Dante Moncrief. But then we're going to plug Anthony Miller in here as our starting slot receiver. So that's a pretty good looking wide receiver depth chart, and really didn't take a whole lot. It took a 2nd and a 3rd round pick and a few cheap free agent signings to make that look like the Browns receiving core next year. Not too bad. Obviously those ratings a little inflated. Tight end, we're set. We did get Joe Thomas back. This offensive line's actually going to be pretty good. I would expect the run game to be working here. At right tackle, so we have Rick Leonard, who we drafted. We got Sean Coleman, who I believe started right tackle last year. I get Sean Coleman and Rod Johnson mixed up. Both these guys ended up playing a good bit last year once Joe Thomas went down. So it looks like Rod Johnson's our best bet there, so he'll win that job out. And then on the defensive end situation here, brought in Jeff Holland, a guy who I almost have a 1st round grade on. We took him early 2nd, so that was kind of a steal. We are going to start Ogba, but if things aren't clicking fast there, we're definitely going to go to Holland, and Holland will rotate here. On the D-line, we were able to sign Coney Ely, who hit the market. We needed one more guy here, so pretty good interior. Danny Shelton doesn't really fit the scheme anymore, but he's a hell of a nose tackle. Probably all of a sudden one of the bigger weaknesses now is that interior defensive line. And then along the linebacker situation, Jamie Collins is still a stud in my opinion. He's rated pretty low here. Middle linebacker, we're going to have Schobert and Andre Smith, the intriguing rookie we took. We'll see how that plays out. Maybe we go to Smith if the defense is struggling. Christian Kirksey, pretty solid. And then at corner, we're going to make Minka number 1 here. I think Jamar Taylor is a better corner than Jason McCourty. Just to be realistic here, we'll go ahead and play Taylor over him. I don't see McCourty being back here next season, so I think it would be a Mukamara here, and maybe I should have just cut McCourty instead, but We'll keep him there just in case. And then at safety, I had to make Jabril just a little better. He's criminally rated low here. So he's going to start at free safety. We took Deshaun Elliott in the 4th round, first pick in the 4th round out of Texas, hoping he can become our Earl Thomas, but we'll see. Maybe he takes Kindred's job or we move Peppers over there. I actually think Peppers plays better as a strong safety anyway, so we'll see how Kindred plays. I think he's rated a little too high here. And then I don't really care about our returning situation here. 3rd down back, we got Duke Johnson. So we'll see how this all plays out. I think this team would be pretty competitive, mainly because I'm pretty high on Darnold. We make all these moves, a half-decent free agent class and a really solid draft. All of a sudden, you're looking at this team, I think, as a 6-7 to 9-win team in the AFC, which is a really bad conference. I mean, Darnold could realistically come in and be one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in that entire conference right away, especially if that line stays healthy. This would be a really fun team to watch next year for sure. So we got some cuts. Definitely okay getting rid of Darius Jackson, Sammy Coates, see ya. I'm going to cut Shaquem Griffin. It's a fun story, but just don't see it happening. And then I am going to go ahead and let Jason McCourty go, even though he's our highest rated corner here. I don't see him repeating those results next year. So that is going to make Amukamara our 4th. And then we'll be between Jamarcus King and Howard Wilson, who this team spent a decent pick on last year. So we'll give Wilson a chance as the 5. So take this simulation with a grain of salt. I'm basically going to say that for all of these simulations. Madden isn't the best for immersion as far as being realistic. We've done our best. I think this has been a very realistic rebuild. We're going to set the bar pretty low for this Browns team, but I think we can get over 7 wins. We'll see. So we're going to basically run through this real fast. We'll stop and look at the stats midseason and end of year. So we won our first game. We're 1-1 now. Visiting the Chiefs. I'm not even going to look at negotiations because we are going to stop after the first year. We're 1-2 now. We lost in Arrowhead. That's not a surprise. And Jabril Peppers, torn rotator cuff, onto the IR. So now we need A, new safety, and B, we get to play our rookie. So we're going to sign Andrew Adams, a guy who has experience starting in the past for the Giants, and then make sure we're starting our Texas rookie here at free safety. So we're 1-2. We got the 0-2-1 Jets. Pick up another win, and we pick up another injury. And it's Andre Smith. That's not the end of the world. He wasn't starting, out for 4 weeks. We got the conference game here at Pittsburgh that we lose bye week onto the Raiders next week. Raiders really struggling here in 2018. Let's see if we can get a win against that team who's been struggling, and we don't. So 2-4, but it's not over yet. We got the Texans coming to town, and we pick up a win. We got Andre Smith returning from injury. But week 9, let's go ahead and look at our stats and see if there's any changes we need to make. So Darnold having a fantastic year. I mean, the completion percentage down, but 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Love to see that. Nick Chubb playing well. Justin Jackson is playing vulture there, stealing the touchdowns. And our number 1 receiver is Njoku. But Anthony Miller having a good year. Josh Gordon surprisingly quiet there. Looks like Moncrief playing well. And Corey Coleman doing decent as well. Defensively, it's been good for Ogba. So he's holding on to that job, getting some pressure breathing down his neck there with the rookie we took. Myles Garrett, really disappointing season there. Just 1.5 sacks. Joe Schobert following up his big rookie breakout year there with 2 interceptions right now. Deshaun Elliott got a pick, and Minka Fitzpatrick has a pick. So let's say this is going pretty well. It's a pretty exciting year for the Browns to have a quarterback playing like that, especially. So we got the Bengals coming to town. I would think we can win this. 2-5 Bengals. We get a tie. Now we got the Steelers coming down 6-2. And we get a win. So we're 4-4-1. We got to go to Atlanta. We get the loss. We've got another team with a tie. Madden full of those ties. We pick up another loss. So now we need to win out situation here at 4-6-1. We do get to play the Bengals. Battle for Ohio, and we lose and get 2 injuries. So that's gonna, knock us out of the playoffs as Corey Coleman goes down for 6 weeks. we'll wrap up the simulation here. But looks like, an exciting but realistic disappointment season yet again for Cleveland. We'll see, they're 5-8-1. Maybe they can get to 7 wins. That actually match the goal here. That's 6-8-1. And now at New Orleans, let's see, what was our last injury here? Nick Chubb goes down. So we go 6-9-1, and those division standings a mess. We were actually kind of in the thick of things. Real life's not going to play out like that, obviously. But we get Offensive Rookie of the Year for Sam Darnold. So the Browns have found their quarterback. That's exciting. Njoku looks like he may have made a Pro Bowl. Yep. So you get the first round pick from last year, starting to thrive. We finished 24th in offensive yards. So a bit of a disappointment from an offensive perspective, but you got the quarterback. You can start building around an obvious improvement season for the Browns. I mean, you're talking about, an 0-16 team getting 7 wins next year. But it was the defense that really let us down. Gave up the most yards in the NFL, gave up the most points in the NFL. A lot of that coming through the air. So going to have to improve that secondary heading into the next season. Definitely those safeties, I think, would be a pretty big concern here because Kindred did not have a good season. You did have the rookie out of Texas playing well, and we lost Peppers for the year, but definitely no solid answers at safety and defensive tackle and linebacker. Really a lot of work to be done on the defense. You can't build Rome in a day. We tried. Personally, pretty realistic rebuild for me. Darnold ended up throwing a bunch of interceptions, but 33 touchdowns, 4,000 yards. Those interceptions definitely not helping. Nick Chubb looks like he would have gotten to 1,000 had he not gotten hurt. And then Justin Jackson comes in as the vulture here. Receiving-wise, really good year from Anthony Miller, which is really good to see as well, to get a receiver to step up for this team. Doesn't win any awards, but that's rookie of the year caliber numbers there. Moncrief makes an impact as the free agent signing. Again, really good to see the tight end succeed. But yeah, defensively, man, would have loved to see Myles Garrett step up a little more. Only 6 sacks for him. But Ogba gets a fire lit under his ass, getting pressure from Jeff Holland, who doesn't do much in the stat sheets. And then, defense just not creating turnovers. So I'd say a pretty realistic rebuild, though, there for the Browns. I think you'd have a lot of optimism for this team heading into next season. You get another high pick. You got what you might consider one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC going into the next season with hopefully, maybe, I should say, no Tom Brady. But that's going to do it. Guys, check out the Patreon. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you for the next rebuild, hopefully soon.